I pledge allegiance
to the
to
flag
the
of
flag
the States
of
of
the United
America,
States of America,
and the
and
republic
to the republic for which it stands, one
of
nation, under
under
God, indivisible,
liberty and
with
justice for
liberty and
all.
justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Rebecca, could you please call roll
Yeah,
or
Sandy
take roll
Smith,
call? Present.
Scott Bowman,
Here.
Jeff Robbins,
Here,
John Smith,
Here.
and Ryan Leahy.
Present.
All right. Turning first to the approval of the agenda. Have all of you had an opportunity to take a look at the agenda for this special meeting?
I have, yes.
Yes.
Anyone have any questions, comments, changes?
None.
No.
Okay, I'm not hearing any changes to the agenda. I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda, please.
I'll move to approve the agenda for today's meeting as presented.
May I have a
Oh.
second, please?
I'll second.
Who was that?
That's Scott.
Thank you, Scott. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, no. The motion carried. We're going to turn now to public comment. If you have a public comment and you're participating via Zoom, please use the feature at the bottom to raise your hand. And we will call on people in order. Sorry, that was my dog snoring in the background. I don't know if you could hear that.
My dog could hear it.
Okay, is anyone in the room there with you, Rebecca, that is indicating an interest in making a comment?
Nope,
No?
it's just Chief and I here.
Okay. All right, then turning to the first item of business under item 6 on the agenda, discussion action, reconsider direction to seek RFPs for consulting and services, including a survey, sorry, I had to take a breath, a survey for possible November 2026 sales tax election. I'll turn it over to Chief to introduce this topic.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. This is only 4 days ago that you gave us this direction, and we jumped on it right away, drafted up a RFP, and I did send it out to all the board members, and a couple individually responded to me with some comments on it. We made those changes. However, in the process of getting this ready to go, we have found that even with an expedited process, we're not gonna be able to have anything to you realistically, probably until your June 1st meeting, for you to make a decision on. And then after that, it would take, we'd have to negotiate, to get the contract taken care of with the attorneys. You get that signed, get it in place and get the project started. So realistically, it would be well into June, before we even got a survey out to work on, and that would be starting with probably a new consultant. And, timeline would just kill us. So we're in a situation where if we want to have realistic data to work with and get this project started to be ready for a November election, it'd be really hard to do. There is wording in our purchasing policy that allows us to make an exception to the normal procedure, and that's what we're asking you to do, is to rescind your direction from earlier this week to do a regular RFP process and give us an exception to the purchasing policy under this paragraph, to go ahead and do a sole source. If you decide to do that, then we can go on to item 2, or the next item, which is to consider a proposal that we do have from the consultant that was recommended by our attorneys. If we decide not to do that, then we'll certainly get that RFP out, lickety split Monday morning, and get it back as quick as we can. We'll just a week turnaround time on it, given the holiday that is Memorial Day. So get them back in on the 26th and see where we go from there. That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you, Chief. In your board book, the proposed motion is a motion to approve, deny, or modify reconsidering direction to seek RFPs for consulting and services for for a possible November 2026 sales tax election. And so I'm going to open up the floor to the board to discuss that motion.
I can start. I think in principle, what the chief has presented to us makes perfect sense. With the short fuse that we have on this whole process, a matter of 2 to 3 weeks matters a lot. For the previous exercise that the chief and Rebecca carried out, and went to 3 or 4 different companies. Pretty much all of them were, said that either said, "Listen, you shouldn't do this in November." I think one of them did say that. But all of them, save for the company that does the surveys only, I believe, said that that they just didn't have the bandwidth at this time to do it. They're already tied up with other people or other organizations that started this process in a more timely manner. So I think that makes perfect sense to do this. And the company that we're talking about comes highly recommended. Their credentials, as presented in our packet, look excellent. That's
Okay,
it.
I guess I can speak a little bit. This is Scott. First of all, Chief, I want to thank you for all the hard work you did on getting that RFP done so fast, and it was actually very well done. The only concern I have is the cost. I don't know what this would normally cost if we put out an RFP, if we're in the ballpark at $100,000, or if this is a extenuating circumstance because it's a short time frame. But that's the only thing I don't know is what the normal cost is to do this type of work for an election.
I can give you a little bit of information. I was talking to the fire chief in Windsor just yesterday, as a matter of fact, and they have already done their survey, and they are just now starting to do the education stuff, and they're already $80,000 into it. I think when we talked to Evans, I think
Chief, is that 8 or 80?
80.
80, okay.
And I think Sandy, when you and I talked to Evans, I think they were talking about 120, I think.
Yeah, that's
When they-
right. For
Yes.
the entirety of the process, correct? Yeah.
Process. So I agree with Scott that it's a lot of money, but it's certainly, from what I've seen, within the ballpark.
Okay, well, thank you. That's what I wanted to know is if we're in the ballpark or not, then I'm on board with trying to go to just the sole sourcing proposal that you have.
I just have a quick question. Steve, you're here. You had in your proposal that you had done work for Evans. Are you the one that did the work for their campaign to get financial independence?
No, I did not do that campaign. I
Okay.
did the campaign to build their new kind of city administration building and a fire election. Those are the two
Okay.
I did.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I just know that Evans was very happy with the work
Ah.
that their consultant did.
I
and
should have said yes. I'm sorry.
Well, but I didn't know whether to say, oh, okay, well, the same person. But I do recall very clearly that they said it was easily $120,000 that they spent on the process to conduct the election for obtaining a sales tax, I believe. They did the sales tax election. So I'll open it to Ryan or John if you have comments or questions.
I was kind of wondering the same as what Scott said about if it was in the ballpark, but it sounds like once again the chief did his homework and figured it out preemptively, and sounds like we're there. So I am in agreement with Scott and Jeff on this.
Brian?
The only question that comes to mind for me, that cost was part of the question that's been answered. We talked about a couple stop gates. You know, if we get to the survey and it doesn't bode well in our favor, and we were to stop there, how is that distinguished? Is this something we have to pay for, and then that contract would be carried out the next year, or is that something that it would be a discounted price? How does that break down if at some point we decide this is not going to work?
Hey, Ryan, this is Warren. As a matter of fact, I did alert Steve that would probably be a question. I think the issue is whether you want to address it under this agenda item or the next agenda item.
Okay.
Well, I think why don't we find out the answer to the question now?
Sure. It's an easy one. I don't stay in business by doing stuff that people don't want me to do, or vice versa. So, you'll pay for a poll, and I'll have a 3-month agreement with you to work for the district's behalf. If we decide not to go, my contract will end then. So we'll stop it. So if you do this work and you don't decide to move forward, it'll cost you 30 grand roughly, not 100.
So
And
it would
that
be the
sounds-
20 for the survey and
Yep.
10
10
for
from me.
1
Yeah,
month of consulting.
exactly.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Seems fair.
Appreciate that, Steve.
Chief, is that consistent with your understanding generally of what that amount of work would cost as well?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think if we were to be, if we were into a year at work and we were doing competitive bids, maybe we could get a little bit less on a monthly rate, but we're not there.
Did Magellan say what they would charge for the survey? If I recall, it was around 30, wasn't it?
And now closer to 20, I think it was around 20. And again, it was very preliminary. And again, from what I'm talking to my other colleagues out there in the field, 20 plus or minus seems to be about the going rate for a survey.
Okay, so it was 20 for the survey, but that didn't include the consulting service, which Steve is
That's
going to provide to us. So we're basically paying 20 for a survey and 10 for consulting for a month, which makes.
And I don't have a feeling for the consulting side.
Okay. Any other questions on this subject? Are you all prepared to vote on the motion? I'll restate the motion. I'm going to do the voting by poll this time because when we did yeses and nos last time, it was confusing to figure out who was saying yes and who was saying no. So I just do it more safely so we can accurately capture everybody's vote. The motion is a motion to approve the reconsideration of our direction to seek RFPs for consulting and services for a possible November 2026 sales tax election. Can I have somebody make that motion, please?
I'll move that. Go ahead.
I'll make the motion as it was.
Thank you, John. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
I'm going to do a poll vote. So I'm going to start with Jeff. Jeff, what is your vote on that?
Yay.
John,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Unanimous. The motion unanimously passes. So we'll move on now to the second item on the agenda, which is the sole source consultant for a possible November 2026 sales tax election. And Chief, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, again, we've already covered some of the points in my staff report. But we have received a proposal from Steve Welchert and his company. He comes recommended to us by our attorney, as well as Don Lombardi, who is the chief of West Metro, and he has worked with Steve before and recommends him highly as well. I think you all remember Don. He's also our consultant for the fire chief search. So we all know him, and I certainly respect his his judgment on this. I'd like to ask Steve to kind of go through a proposal. I already alerted him that you will probably have specific questions about the survey and the process and the timeline, as well as the question that just came up a couple of minutes ago is what happens if we decide not to go? And we've already got an answer to that question. Also, if you decide to do this tonight, then obviously Steve and I would have to, get a contract together, and then that would have to be reviewed by our attorney, and I'm sure we can do that very quickly. Sandy, you're gonna be out of the country, so I'm assuming that Scott would be able to sign that in your stead. Is that correct?
Yes, Scott, will you be willing to do that, please?
I would.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess I'll just turn this over to Steve. Why don't you go through your proposal?
Thanks, Chief. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you all meeting on a 4 o'clock on a Friday because it's cocktail hour somewhere. So thanks for spending a minute talking about this. Um, I had a good chat with Rebecca and Warren earlier in the week. We went through a number of issues, and you have a lot of issues besides just the sales tax, and we need to tackle those as well. But um, the process here is going to be a little complicated. And one of the first things I want to try and address and figure out is kind of the true size of the district and the true population and voter counts. I've had my team put together a voter file. Um, I've got you at where's it at? 7,185 people, um, about 5,334 voters, and almost 3,400 households. So, um, we thought maybe it's 12,000. Now it's maybe seven. The voter file is more like five plus. And I presume a gentleman had this conversation with you as well, but getting people to respond to a survey is a really tough thing these days, right? We all get so many spam calls and so many spam texts, and do you want us to give you a new bank loan? All kinds of stuff, right? And so people responding to a call for a survey is tough as well. Um, Keith Frederick is the pollster I use almost exclusively, not all the time, but 90% of the time. He's a crackerjack pollster, has done this for a long time and has done a lot of fire districts in Colorado as well. He and I have had a couple of conversations about you all. Um, we did West Metro, as Chief just mentioned. That's probably the biggest one. It's all of Jeffco and then some in Denver Metro. Multi-million-dollar deal. And most recent one was Boulder County. I did two questions for Boulder County, fire and emergency services, both for Boulder County in 22. Um, but the one that seems to me to be closest to you all is Glenwood Springs. And I've done a lot of work in Glenwood Springs, both muni and library and transportation, and also the fire guys. And the fire election we did a couple years ago, 4 or 5 years ago now, is kind of in the same dynamic as we're in today, which is drought situation, high fire risk, people are on edge. And as you all know, Glenwood's had some bad fire experiences in their history, and so people there are heightened aware of the situation. So I think there's some potential there in Estes Park as well to have people think smartly about fire protection. The downside is we're in a really tough economy, right? I mean, the taxes are high, property taxes are high, gas prices are high, inflation's high. Everyone's complaining about the economy, and so giving up more sales tax dollars to anybody, not just fire district guys, but anybody is a tough call. The good news is, as I was explaining to the chief, and I'll put my hands over here so you can see me, and Rebecca, is that there is a kind of a food chart for taxes, right? And police and fire at the top of the food chain. You get down below, and people can do without recreation services or some other things, but police and fire are pretty top notch, and fire more than police in most places. I suspect that's going to be true here as well. The real problem, the reason I mentioned population size a second ago, and I want to really be sure that we get this right. We have to get it right. Is that, like I said, it's going to be really tough to get people to take a poll. And Rebecca and Warren both mentioned that perhaps the news media would help us promote a poll and do it that way. We can do some other things, perhaps from our side and from your side, to promote a poll, just to say, look, the fire district is thinking about doing an election. Elections are expensive. And so if you don't like the idea, you should tell them, right? But do it that way and just tell them right now. So we'll know on the front end. Normally in a bigger community, even a Windsor kind of community with that size, a 250 to 300 sample poll is the right place to be, and I like a 300 sample poll. But the truth is, getting a 1 to 2% response rate back is ideal. That's about as good as you're going to do. Well, 1 to 2% in our community is going to be 100 people, maybe 125 people, right? That's given the current population strand. So, using the poll to make a go, no go decision is going to be a little trickier because Keith and I have talked about this. We think we can extrapolate the data, and these are scientific surveys, and so I can interview someone who's like Sandra and someone who's like Ryan and come up with that answer, and so 100 people can look like 300 people in a test, but I don't get too carried away there, right? And so you all want to make a no decision about this, and that's important. I told the chief, if this was a Smith versus Jones campaign, like Weiser versus Bennett governor's race, or whatever you want to call it, and you polled in the early low 50s, that'd be a pretty good number. You'd say, I'm going to be governor, I'm going to be senator, I'm going to be whatever I'm going to be. I'm going to be on the fire district board. But in a tax election, I think low 50s is a tough place. And the one thing that Keith and I will not do is come back to you, and just tell you things are wonderful and lovely, and you should go forward. If we get a tough number back, we're going to tell you it's a tough number. Anything in the 40s is a no-go for me, and the low 50s is a tough go. And here's why. Again, Smith and Jones is a, it's a binary choice, right? You have to choose one or the other. With a tax question, everybody gets to vote no, right? We can all vote no on a tax question. And while we love our firefighters, and we love our fire district, and we love the idea of this, the closer you get to election day, people start grabbing their wallets and going, gosh, can I really afford a sales tax? And, is it 1/4% or 0.5%? And what do we decide there? And how's that going to look? And the city's not going to reduce their sales taxes. So we're adding that into the pile. And so that's why I say it's not a binary choice. Everybody gets to vote no on taxes. So we need to be in the mid to upper 50s or low 60s, ideally, to have a go, no go decision. That's my first threshold question back to you. And then let me just say it one more time. My contract is for 3 months with you guys, June, July, and August. You'll call the question either in late August or early September. But there'll also need to be a yes campaign. Somebody's got to run a yes campaign on the side in August, September, and October. And I don't charge for that. Right. I'll just do that as part of working for whatever campaign committee gets put together by you all moving forward. So that's how you factor that in. So really figure me for 5 months, not 3, but the 3-month piece is our contract together as a district. What else should I tell you about this?
Steve, can I ask one question quick?
Please. Yeah.
You mentioned 5,400 households.
Yeah.
I think the census people talk about a household being 2.9 people per household. So that would get us to about the 12 or 13,000 total population that we think we have in the district. However, the number of registered voters might be lesser than we think.
Yeah, I've got you at 5,300 voters, Chief, and I got you at 3,300 households.
How many households?
3,379 households. I'll call it mailboxes.
Okay, so if 33, so that's still about 10,000.
Is that for the district though, or for the town? Because the district is larger than the town, right?
It's the town or the district.
Yeah, that's why I sent the chief the map. So I have a voter file from the county and I have the map, and we'll knock this out. We'll figure it out. We'll solve this problem. But everyone's math today looks like it's a smaller number, town and rural combined.
Because the district includes the town, but also includes a number, a broader area.
Like for example, is Drake in the district or Pinewood?
No.
Right.
No, Drake is not.
Yeah, so that map I sent you, reflects the district accurately, but
my experience has been, that the municipalities, whether they, are pretty accurate. Districts are hard.
Yeah.
And if we actually have to come down to it, we can do an actual dwelling unit count. I can do that probably within a couple days if we have to do that. I've done that before. Actually get a count.
for fire insurance purposes, you probably have to have an account, right? And I think we'll figure out with Larimer County too, who they're going to mail ballots to. We have to mail ballots out to folks, and so they'll have some kind of account there.
Well, we should know that because we did an election in 2023.
Right.
It was our own election too. It wasn't a coordinated election.
Wasn't
So that
coordinated?
somewhere.
Okay.
We'll have to find it.
We'll figure it out. But anyway, so the timeline of the process here is that spend next week and maybe a little bit after kind of working through the questionnaire, right? What are the issues we have to talk about? And I think, I know there's been some issues with old board members, past chiefs of the district. It's important to find out whether those things are still in people's memories, whether people still have bad feelings about some of this stuff, or they're okay with it, or where they're at. We have to have an honest assessment of where you guys are at before we can move forward. So we need to kind of factor that in, figure out what kinds of questions we want to ask. And then I've already reached out to a financial advisory firm to help you guys talk about sales tax and what sales taxes raise. And they do this kind of work for all kinds of local governments all over the state as well. And you can choose to use them or somebody else, but we need to figure out what the tax number is going to be. Is it a quarter? Is it a half? Is it more? And we can ask 2 or 3 different levels, right? We can ask a higher and a lower level to see what the tax sensitivity is in your community, what people are willing to do. I don't think it's the same problem in Estes as it was in Glenwood, but in Glenwood, for example, if you raise the sales tax, you got to know what it is up the valley and down the valley too, right? Like what is it up in Aspen or Carbondale, and what is it down in Rifle and Newcastle. So in Estes Park, you guys are a little more isolated from the rest of the world that way. I'm not sure people are going to leave to do something else, but that kind of question is going to be important as well. What's our tax rate going to be compared to our neighbors, right? How tough is it going to be?
Well, Steve,
Yes.
I think a large percentage of our sales tax is paid for by non-residents.
Right.
So that figures in somewhere. I don't know where.
No, I was gonna say that's your other advantage here is that like Glenwood's about 78%. You guys are over 80, I think, paid for by tourists. And so, tourists paying the tax matters. But look, you all are voters, right? You pay the tax too. So that's what voters are going to tell themselves. We're going to get a lot of money from tourists, but I'm still paying the tax. So that's the challenge. But I've communicated, let the tourists pay the tax before in Glenwood and other places, and it does work quite well. I have to agree. Anyway, on process, it'll take us a few days to kind of knock out a draft of a survey, get it back to you all for review, and then have another meeting to kind of finalize the instrument. And I think we get in the field right after Memorial Day if we can, and as quick as we can, and make this a June document. Keith and I don't think we'll have much trouble getting data for you for your June 22nd meeting. But I want to underscore, we're not talking about a 300 sample. That would be astronomical. We're talking about 100, 125, maybe 150. And so as a result, I don't think we'll burn through the $20,000 either. I mean, that's just that's an estimate for 300 samples. So we don't get there, that'll come down. We're not going to have a problem with that. But it'll take numerous rounds, numerous calls, and it's a combination of calls and online. It'll probably be 70% online survey respondents and about 30% on the telephone. That's been our experience moving forward. And then, like I said, we'll get in the field. We'll do that piece. We'll communicate before and during, and we'll promote the poll so people actually want to take the poll. And then you'll have data on the 22nd. I may come up to the meeting, or we can both Zoom into the meeting, whatever was best for you all. But we'll come in and we'll do a full presentation, and it'll be charts and graphs, and you'll see where people are at, what people are thinking, what the sales tax sensitivity is, what people are willing to do, whether it makes sense or not based on the modeling we've done on the voter file, and we'll give you our best recommendation about how to proceed, and then you all as the policymakers can make your decisions. And then as I said in my chart or my timeline, we're doing a lot of things, in kind of a parallel track, right, at the same time. So I intend to do some things with the chief and with you all while we're doing this polling process. anticipating we're going to move forward. If we don't, we don't, but anticipating we move forward so that we're not flat-footed on July 23rd or June 23rd, right? We want to be moving forward. So a lot of things can happen there, organizationally and project-wise. And then as we move forward, the education campaign, and how we promote what you're doing to folks, just to be sure we're all clear about this. This is absolutely legal, absolutely permissible, and I would suggest it's actually your obligation to communicate with your public about what it is your plans are and why you're doing it. The why is the big deal, and our why is not as lovely as I'd like. The city's going to lose their sales tax with us, and we're going to have to, come up the backside. If we're not going to buy new fire trucks or build a new firehouse, that's a little less sexy, but we'll discuss all those things and we'll kind of come up with a good why reason for why we're doing this piece. But there's a number of avenues of communication that we think work really well. I'm still a believer in direct mail. Having something show up in your mailbox if it's big and splashy and is eye-catching is useful. But the biggest element of all this is kind of, I don't want to call it surround sound because it's not that good with the budget we have, but it is meeting people where they're at, right? Where are folks at? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Are they on Twitter? Having a pretty big digital presence, talking about these issues digitally. We'll have a landing page, both for the campaign and for the Yes campaign. When that happens later. But I think your website is quite good, and if we can adapt to that, we can use that as well as part of a promotional or educational campaign to match those things together. There's a bit of lag because we're a government and because we'll be in politics at some level. People at Facebook and Instagram and those kind of places will take some time. It'll take a while for them to allow us to use their platforms, and that's just kind of how things are these days. So, but that we'll get out in front of that pretty quick and beyond engage in that. The other thing that I kind of like, and again, we're going to be in tourist season. I'm sensitive to that, and you guys are going to help me figure out what works best for your community. But a teletown hall might be a good thing to do. Maybe you want to do a real live town hall as well. But once I get home at night, I don't like going back out. And but maybe that's not a problem in Estes. But if I get home at night, I might dial into a teletown hall at 7 o'clock. But after I've had dinner. But if I'm working, or I can do it that way as well. But we'll figure those kind of things out. So I'll need your help, and I want your guidance about how best to communicate with your constituents, right? These are your folks. You know this town better than I do. I was first there in the 70s and I love Estes Park, but you all know your community. You got elected by these folks. So I want your input about, communication vehicles and how we do that. And then that's where the money gets spent, right? Is designing and buying Facebook ads, Instagram ads, Twitter, being up and doing those things, some direct mail, 2 or 3 pieces that are effective. And again, let me just say, it doesn't stop in August, right? This is not just a June, July, August experience. We can communicate with folks on an educational bandwidth using public dollars if you spend those dollars before you call the question, right? So I'm going to jump ahead and say, all right, we're going forward, we're doing this election, and you're going to have Collins and Cockrell's going to come up, and I'll have ballot language that I'm going to help them write, by the way, and based on the poll, and you're going to have a vote in August or September, early September, and whatever dollars we want to spend in September or October, you have to put into my bank account before you call the question. And if you do that, then we're legal and permissible and fine. You can't do it after the fact. Once you do it after the fact, it's electioneering, and that's not allowed. So that's just kind of how the rules work. And this has been how governments have done this all over the state. You're not unique in this experience, either the way you're hiring me or the way this process works. And like I said, we had great success doing this with lots of folks, other places. I've talked a bit here, and I appreciate that. Your indulgence, thank you. I think you have questions, and I'm better with Q&A anyway. So,
Steve, I guess I have one question that you talked about the reasoning behind seeking this sales tax, and I think it's more sort of a coordinated effort to enhance and modernize our community protective services because the reason why the town wants to utilize the sales tax they currently have that they give to us is to enhance, obviously, and modernize and upgrade the police department, which is a highly necessary thing in our community. And, I think that there's a very strong argument to be made that this is necessary to both enhance and modernize the totality of the community's protective services, including the police department as well as the fire services. And I do think there are fire trucks and other fire equipment involved because maintenance and replacement issues are significant to us. And I think that's another piece to this for us.
Okay, that's Sandra, you said it really well. That's really helpful information to have. That's the kind of thing we want to put in a questionnaire for sure.
Okay. Does
Uh,
anyone else have a question? I'm sorry, go ahead. Somebody has questions or does somebody have their hand raised?
I know we have Travis on here, Sandy, and Travis and I have actually talked about this. How do we joint message, between the town and us to show it as an umbrella. As a matter of fact, I think Travis had a slogan. Trying to think what it was. One vote solves two public safety problems.
Ooh,
Oh,
one
I
vote.
like that.
One vote solves two problems.
It's on your whiteboard.
That's yeah. So Travis, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Steve? I bet you that Travis can't unmute himself. Someone may need to help him. He's probably there trying to talk to his screen and not.
Is Travis our town manager or a town
Yes.
employee?
It looks like I can unmute myself.
Oh,
So-
there you go.
I didn't know I had that authority. I assumed I did not. But yeah, we're, as Chief mentioned, we're happy to be partners in this effort. As you all know, we were somewhat of an instigator in this effort. So I appreciate Chief's sharing of the slogan. I do think it is a valuable way to accurately communicate what this means for our community. So as I told the chief, and I will tell you all now, that the town is more than happy to devote any help to staff as they work through this. Of course, we have the same limitations if you all end up choosing to send this to the ballot once that action happens.
I mean, Travis, that's great news, and I would hope we'd get a resolution by the city council or town council to endorse the ballot question, and we participate together with you all in kind of public discussions and public meetings and editorials and those kinds of things. That'd be a really big help.
I have a question, Steve, Scott Dorman, board member. Would you be helping then us form a yes committee, as you said, to move this forward then? Or picking the people that we need for that?
Absolutely. That's a must do. And I'd like everybody on the board to be thinking about who those folks might be. In fact, one of the tools I've tried to use in the past is ask every board member to maybe nominate two people to be on a campaign committee. And it's the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker, right? It's folks in town, and the busier they are, the better they are, right? If they're too busy to be on a committee, that's the people you want on the committee because they're involved in everything. And so, I don't have a sense of how much money we can raise on a yes committee, but we need to try. And I have some tools and some skills to be able to help us do that. But if we can, raise 15, 20 grand, for example, just on the yes side, because you guys can tell the why story. You can tell the need story. You can communicate an awful lot of things about what's going on, and we can and coordinate with the city on some stuff. But at some point, someone's got to say, "Hey, vote yes," right? We urge a yes vote, and so that has to be done with a campaign committee for sure. And I'll be integrally involved in doing that and helping you put that together. Yes.
Great, thank you.
Sandy, I've got, I think two other items, since we're all here talking about this, we have reached out to our legal folks, and they are putting us together an estimate of what it would be for them to serve as our DEO and do all of the work that would, all the legal work that goes along, including the ballot language that Steve talks about. He would coordinate with them and all the filings and acting as our DEO to process all those ballots. And like I said before, we must have data someplace on the number of qualified electors, because we just did this 3 years ago. So we must have it someplace. The other is, we've already started discussions with our paid staff. And I've had a little bit of discussion with our volunteer officers, and some volunteers were here the other night. We've got a relatively heavy lift on the staff side of this project to come up and put, we've got to figure out we're talking about the whys, but we also have the needs piece and what those needs are, and we have to cost those out, because those then become the part of the calculation of quarter cent, half cent, third cent, 60% of a cent, that's where that number has to come from. And we'll be, if we start going down this road, we'll have a couple months of pretty heavy work to get that. And I've already started corralling the troops to get started on that process.
It was funny, a few years ago, I did a combo city and fire election in Westminster. And both agencies were gung-ho and ready to go. And the gang were they're out knocking on doors and campaigning for the thing. And I'd send cops up to the door, and they're all wearing their T-shirts. And I want to ask the chief the question about T-shirt. You got with a police T-shirt on, people wouldn't answer the door. You come up with a firefighter T-shirt on. Well, hey, how you doing? What are you selling today? Can I buy cookies or what's going on? So the police guys got out of the door-to-door campaign because nobody wanted to answer the door for them. But
We'll make sure we send firefighters out with dogs.
Yes,
And
yes,
And kids.
And kids.
right. So I'd be curious to know whether your volunteer team, whether we pay for their T-shirts or whether they pay for their own T-shirts, their own.
We pay for a lot of T-shirts.
Okay, all right.
But my understanding is, I've been involved with this before, that if people that are part of the organization are actually campaigning, that they can't be identified as the members. They have to have a T-shirt that says "Vote yes," whatever the slogan is, or.
Yeah, that is no. Usually in bigger communities like West Metro or Westminster, the union does it, right? So they're wearing their union IF shirts. That helps. In your case, we can't wear our branded stuff for Estes Valley, but we'll figure out something fun.
Yeah, and that's why I think board members, I think it's important for you to know that we are starting the ball rolling, on the staff side of getting this going. Because it is a lift, and at some point in time, probably early July, we need to probably be at that decision point of what the ask is going to be. X number of dollars. We know what the city side or the town side is. We know that's about 1.3 million. And so what's the other piece of it? What's the other part of the need? And we've had some discussion already about a major fire station project, and whether a major fire station project is, should be a part of this particular initiative or not. We're gonna have to sort through that. But that's all gonna get down to what the ask is. What's the ask gonna be? A quarter cent, a half cent, whatever it is. We also, maybe, Steve, as part of this consulting service, if this comes out to working with you, really understanding what is allowed to be taxed under sales tax for fire districts. It's different than municipalities. So we may need some education of all of us of how that is. So we may have to bring in somebody for that. I am aware from talking to some of my colleagues that have done the sales tax for fire districts recently, in just the last year, that internet sales were really hard to estimate. And they're actually bringing in more revenue than they thought, and they're going to have to give some back. So we certainly want to make sure that our estimates don't get us in that situation.
Yeah, everyone's shopping with their fingers, that's for sure.
Steve, I had a quick question in reference to the surveys that we send out.
Yes,
Do you do mail outs? Do you do just online? Do you do electronic, both? Is it something we can put QR codes out or ask
Great.
people to participate?
Yeah, great question. We don't do mail out surveys because then you get kind of a self-selected sample, right? You want to create a scientific survey, a scientific sample, so that it's random. So it'll be all electronic. It'll be a blend of both online and telephone. So we'll call people, and we'll also text people and say, please take the survey. Or we're the fire department, please take our survey. Fire district, take our survey. One of the things Keith and I kicked around is, do we have the technology to maybe use the district's phone number as the ID? So when you pick up your phone and go, well, I got some sales call calling me. I don't want to answer this call, but it says Estes Valley Fire. I'm going to answer the call, right? There may be a way to do it that way as well, because we're going to have a really tough time getting a substantial sample done. So a QR code's a good idea. I think we want to use the newspaper in town, or the online newspaper in town, to help promote it as well. And there may be some other things. Maybe City Hall's got some ideas about how they can help promote a survey. So all those things are good, but it's electronic. So it'll be on your phone, either voice or digital.
And it sounds like it's not just a select group. It's anybody can participate. The more the merrier.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes. And what we'll do is, so I just sent the chief the voter file. We know who everybody is, their ethnicity, their party affiliation, all those things. We know the breakdown of your district, right? And so we don't want to oversample. Like there's, I don't know, 400 or 500 more women than men, for example. We want to make sure the poll reflects that, right? We want to make sure the poll reflects the Latino community and rural versus urban, all those kinds of things. And so, as Keith's doing the poll, we may call you, Ryan, and you may take the poll, but we're going to find out what your demographic mix is, so we don't over poll your demographic, right? We get everybody the same mix. So it's called modeling. We'll model that information, and we'll find out, that we have a good model and a good representation of the community.
So, Steve, do we need to have a number that goes along with that survey so that people will know what our ask is? As far
Yes.
as the percentage?
Yes.
So we'll have to
Yes.
have all those numbers before that survey goes out.
Yes. And we'll work on that over the next few days as well. That's part of why I went out to the financial services firm and asked them to get involved, and they'll be giving the chief a call on Monday.
Yeah, and that's why I say I think we're gonna be able to come up with the gross numbers for the survey. What's a quarter cent, what's a half cent, what's a 3/4 cent, and what that means to us. I think we can get that. I think it might take a little more time to come up with numbers. I think one of the key questions we have to wrestle with is the fire station issue. If we try to make a fire station replacement as part of this project, it's going to be a little more difficult. I think renovations to this station in some manner, using our footprint, or deciding that we want to rent office space for all of our staff off-site. I think we can make those decisions relatively quickly and cost those out. I know that Justin and John have already met with the architect that's worked before with us on this building, to look at that. But I think that's an early question we have to wrestle with is a total fire station replacement or a construction of a fire station someplace else, is that part of this project or not?
Yeah, I would think it would be a tough sell to add a new fire station. It didn't go over too well in the last one, and I think that we don't want to bite off more than the voters can take. So
I agree with Scott
I
on
would
this,
agree with that.
100%.
Yep. I was gonna say the same thing Scott did. You hit the nail on the head with that one, Scott. I don't think the people in Estes think we need a new station now. Renovation, or maybe another bay here or there, yeah, maybe. But so the smaller idea that you were talking about, Chief, is what you said you could get together pretty quickly. I feel like that's probably more realistic for this election.
yeah, because
Yeah,
we
I
have
agree.
other options we can do in the future if we gotta build a new station, doing a bond issue or something like that, keeping it completely separate.
That's right, Scott. That's 100% right.
Yeah.
I agree.
I agree.
I'm glad to hear you guys say that, because it made me nervous when it came up. So
Yeah,
I
the
think
less we
that's-
have to educate and convince, the better.
well,
Yeah, I mean, I
and-
do think we do need to do a little remodeling. I mean, it is really tight in those bays, and the idea of, remodeling so that the fire trucks are one place and the offices are another. Hey, that's a much easier thing to price out, and also a much easier thing to sell.
Agreed.
Yeah, your time window is tight generally, it's doable but tight. Your time window for a new building is insurmountable right
Yeah.
now.
Right.
100%
That's
agree.
my view.
Yeah, that's
I
just
agree.
that's not on the table. Yeah, not on
Right.
this one.
Thanks, Madam Chairman. Appreciate it.
Any other
A
questions for Steve?
couple of last 3 points I want to make just to be sure I close the door on this. I will work with Collins and Cockrell to help write the ballot question. I will write our pro statement that we'll have one of our citizens sign and submit to our election official to be our pro statement. We'll only do one. We won't do a con unless somebody else is doing a con. I may try and knock it down. But and I'll help you during that whole process. And like I said, we'll create a yes campaign committee as well. I'd like everybody on this board to help think about who those folks would be, who'd you reach out to, come up with 2 or 3 names each. Um, and we'll want your participation as well. They're going to want to see you in this mix. So that's a big deal. And then to the extent we can get our volunteers and the town folks involved, all the better, of course, because it's kind of an all hands on deck experience. So I look forward to doing this. I'm ready, and I'd like to do this with you guys and move forward.
Thank you, Steve. Do any board members have any further questions for Steve?
Not me.
All right.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
for all the information.
Thank you,
And
Steve.
for all the work you put into it on short notice, we really, really appreciate it. And appreciate also Rebecca and Chief for getting things together and getting things out as quickly as they did. Really, really appreciate that effort as well. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna put I'm gonna put the motion out on the table from the board book. Maybe one of you can make this motion, a motion to approve sole source consultant, the Welkert Company, as shown in the proposal in the board book for a possible November 2026 sales tax election. Having stated that as the motion, could I get someone to make that one?
I'll make that motion.
All right, second, please.
I'll second it.
I'm going to do a poll vote again because I just want to make sure. I think we're all on the same page, but I just want to be sure. I'm going to start with John Smith,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Motion carried unanimously. I think unless anybody has any further questions, comments, or concerns, I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
Let me just say thank you very much, Sandra. I appreciate that, the entire board, and look forward to meeting you guys in person and working together. Chief, I'll get you an agreement letter on Monday with it has an exit clause that if we don't move forward, we end it after a month. So that'll work.
Scott, I've already delegated signature authority to you, so you'll sign on my behalf while I'm in Europe. I think we've already approved the terms of the proposal, so there's nothing more to do as a board on this. You can just go ahead and sign it once that's done. Any other questions, anything before we adjourn?